I did not expect to feel inspired at 9 a.m. It's not usually what happens, but I sincerely appreciate that. I thought that was fantastic, Philip. Thank you. And when someone asked me the other day, well, what do you do? I answered, I send and receive emails all day long. Sometimes I send text messages. And it actually seemed like a somewhat accurate description. So my name is Matt Asay, and I don't write code, but I appreciate those of you that do and respect. And usually the way I answer it is, if I wrote code, I would be a much more valuable human being. But I don't write code, but I do send lots and lots of emails. And in the pursuit of managing Adobe's developer ecosystem. And let me tell you that a few months ago, when we announced the acquisition of Magento, as somebody who's been involved in open source since about 1997, the acquisition of Magento, I didn't care about the money side of it. I didn't care about the commerce side of it. All I cared about was the open source side of it. And it made my life, as someone who's supposed to be focused on developers, marshaling this team of developer advocates and others at Adobe, it made my life so much better. And I have been dramatically happier ever since that happened. Except when yesterday I started taking the train up to Manchester. Now, as an Arsenal supporter, going to Manchester was a little bit of a letdown. I don't want to say in terms of the quality of football that is played up here, but rather in the terms of people actually win in Manchester, and Arsenal hasn't won in about 14 years. So, but it was made a little bit better this morning. Philip, had I known that you were going to run, I went running this morning, and I had old Smith songs going through my head, because Morrissey comes from Manchester. Actually, the whole band did. So the world has changed dramatically over the last 20 plus years since I've been involved in open source. But really, in particular, this year, 2018, has been, I think, the biggest year ever in open source. And by the way, is that music? There's music playing in the background. It's kind of like hero music, and I don't know if that's like supposed to go along with my. I'll take it. But look at up on this screen, and there are a few more that I didn't capture, but roughly $60 billion has been spent this year acquiring open source companies of some stripe. GitHub is not an open source company per se, but enables a lot of open source development. Think about that for a second. $60 billion. And as you know, those dollars did not buy the communities involved with Magento or with the Kubernetes communities or anything like that. So what were they paying for? What did Adobe think that it was buying? A commerce tool or software product, yes. But really, it's about buying this ticket that says, please, can I be part of this community? And that's a lot of money to pay. You guys, I don't know what we paid to get into Mage Titans, but it wasn't $60 billion, thankfully. Adobe paid roughly, what was it, 1.7? I'm not being cheeky, I actually can't remember, but it's up there, thank you. So when I say that I read and write emails for a living, don't trust the reading part. But a lot of money for the chance to participate in these open source communities. Think about that. Think about how important the work that you do in writing code for Magento is, that somebody like an Adobe would spend that kind of money just to be able to have this sort of an opportunity. It's really significant. The work that you do is really significant, and not because of any money that Adobe will make, but because of the opportunities that you create for your employers or if you do this on the side as an individual developer, for just personal enjoyment, money doesn't represent that opportunity very well, but still $60 billion is a lot of money, and it represents it sort of, just how important the work that you do is. So I guess my purpose in coming today was mostly to try to say we don't suck as much as you may be worried that we suck. And I would hopefully say we're actually doing reasonably well. So a few years ago, the last few years, Adobe has made a sort of quiet but concerted effort to become more active in open source communities. And particularly over the last year, and I want to say that because I want to take some credit for this. Since I send and receive emails, getting a little bit of credit is important to me. But we've done some things to make it easier for our employers to participate in open source projects. It's actually now very easy if you're an Adobe employee to participate. And what we've seen is we've jumped from like ranked, and these rankings are not that, they're neither that accurate nor really that important, but as a rough guide to Adobe doing better, I like it. So about this time last year, we were ranked, I think, 38th in terms of the largest open source contributors. And that's measured by number of employees actively engaged on GitHub, contributing to projects. And this number here is actually the number of active, the percentage of engineers that Adobe has that participate in open source projects. And that's jumped from 38 to about 12. And we did gain 4 places by IBM acquiring Red Hat and Microsoft acquiring GitHub, but however we got there, we'll take it. Even if we were at 14, 38 to 14 is a big jump. And you can see the activity going up over the last few years. It's also not just a matter of open source, it's also a matter of opening up our APIs and increasingly open sourcing documentation. We're trying to become a company where you would want to work with us on a regular basis. Contributing code, taking the code that we do, forking it, etc. That's the company that we want to be. And I don't think that we're there yet. But one thing that I wanted to say is, so you say that's great. You've come to strip mine Magento and take the value from it. Well done. You paid some money for it, and now you're expecting to get some multiple of that back. Sort of. Of course, I mean, we're a company, and so of course we want to make money. But really, there are some things that we can do to give back. And one of the things, just one, but one thing that I think is important is we want to make it easier if you are new to Magento, or even if you're not new to Magento, but you're old to Magento and you want it to be a better experience. This is something that we haven't yet done with Magento, but it's something that my team has been doing internally at Adobe. Taking our products, and so what this represents is that number up to the left, your left, my right, is the average number of minutes that it would take a developer, somebody with 2 to 5 years of experience, coming in and starting from a Google search and then getting to Hello World with one of our products, building an application, or in this case, just a simple Hello World. And on average, across our product suite, it's gone from 105 minutes to just over 20 minutes. And you say, well, that's good, but that still sucks, and you're right. Because we're going for in 2019 is to get everything under 5 minutes. So if you as a developer come in to start working with Adobe technology, we want you productive, building something in under 5 minutes. And that includes Magento. So what are some of the things that we did to get there? Well, a lot of it has to do with documentation, making it easier to understand how to use our technology. And again, this is something that I think we can help with the Magento community. But it's not just that. It's about creating sandboxes, or what we call here playgrounds, for some of our products, just to make it easier to experiment and get up and moving, removing barriers to authentication or provisioning, things like that. That's the sort of work that I think that we can do, in addition to our engineers contributing to Magento in the same way that you do. These are the sorts of things that we want to do, and we want to work with the Magento community in doing this. And the last thing that I'd say is the numbers that I've seen are 315,000 Magento developers. And even if you give or take handicap that 100,000 developers or 200,000 developers, the other number up there is the number of Adobe engineers. Well, I'm guessing at it. I just took the number off LinkedIn, the percentage of engineers of our total employee base. About 5,000, 5,700 engineers at Adobe. No matter what that number actually is, whether it's 5,600 or 5,500, no matter what that number of Magento developers is, whether it's 315,000 or 350,000 or 250,000, the delta between the two is huge. And the impact that you can have on Adobe in terms of influence, in terms of telling us what you want us to do, in terms of telling us how you want us to be, your influence is huge. And so the takeaway from this is, yes, Adobe is here. We want to be a good citizen. We don't think that we bought the community. We do think that we bought a right to participate, or at least the right to get to the door and knock and ask that we can participate. And I think we have some positive ways that we can. But what I really want and what we really need is for you to tell us what you want and help to make us better citizens of the Magento community. Because I think we can do a lot of good, but we really need you telling us when we screw up, how we can do better, and what you expect from us. And when I say us, I'm saying that as some big collective we, but really it's the individual developers who sit at Adobe, or non-developers like me who are involved and want to help. So I'd ask you, if you see me here, I'm a little bit of an introvert. I don't play one on stage, but I'm kind of an introvert, so I won't easily go out and just introduce myself to people. But if you have a problem with me, or you think you might, and you probably will, please come up and ask me, find me on Twitter, or otherwise start to make it yourselves known to Adobe, not just to the Ben Marks and Sherry Rohdes, as fantastic as they are, but also to the rest of us at Adobe who really want to be part of this community. Thank you. Thanks for allowing me to be here.